Hey there, history lovers. Welcome to History for Hot Girls, where we deep dive into historical people, events, items, and ideas traditionally considered feminine by hot girls for hot girls. Hey, Nat.
Hello, Michelle.
Nice stripes.
Thank you. You too.
I know, we're very cutesy matching.
I know. I love it.
I love that
It's
for
It's a
us.
vibe.
So today's episode, I want to dedicate it to our shopping addiction and our love for shoes.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're covering a shoe that I think is disappearing.
Yeah. I feel like I'm seeing them around like less and less.
100%.
Yeah.
So in saying that, let's get into it.
Yes.
Who wears high heels? Well, depending on when you lived or where you lived or how much money you had, the answer to that question looks very different. Some people that wore high heels were military men, pin-up girls, a royal in the French court, Studio 54 disco divas, rock stars from the 70s, all valid answers to that question. They're all people who've historically donned the high heel. They have this reputation, I feel like, of being this frivolous thing that women love.
Yeah.
You know, like the lady that has the crazy shoe collection.
You're like just a girl and you're like just defined by the thing that you like to buy and collect. Definitely.
But over time we see that these are just items that reflect meaning about a time period, and they've really come to be symbols, well, at least for me, a symbol of how things change over time, right? And like we said before, like they seem to sort of be disappearing. Like when I was clubbing back in the 2010s, you couldn't get in with anything less than a 6-inch.
Oh my God,
which,
yes.
wise words to live by in general.
Preach.
But as a shoe,
Painful. Traumatic.
very traumatic.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think my ankles are ever going to recover.
No, I can still feel the burn from those like gross peep toes that we used to wear.
Oh my God, the peep toe. I found a pair in the back of my cupboard recently. Oh, horrifying.
Well, fast forward like 10, 15 years, I feel like all we see is like sneakers and ballet flats now.
Much more comfortable options, I would say.
Definitely. So strap yourselves in. On today's episode, we are covering the history of the high heel. We're going to get into the bold beginnings, right? The origin story here. The first recorded people to wear high heels slayed. Like they literally slayed. They were Persian military men.
Yes.
And they were in the cavalry. And they needed, in the 10th century, they were in the 10th century, I should say, and they needed like stability on their horses so they could sort of get up and shoot their weapons.
Right, because, that little gap would be perfect. Yes, I see the vision.
Yes, so the heels would like hook into the stirrups and then they could keep their balance on horseback,
Yes.
right?
I love that.
Yeah, so this shoe transformed warfare throughout parts of Eastern Europe and Central Asia over the next 5 centuries.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's insane. And in 1599, Shah Abbas of Persia really wanted to impress the European girlies because he was like, well, I need some help defeating the Ottoman Empire, so I need some friends who can back me up. And following this mission to get some allies, to get some help, the European aristocratic men were like, oh my God, that's cute. And they started adopting the masculine, edgy style of the Persian cavalry.
Love it.
So that gets us to the glow up, okay, the rise in popularity of the heel. By the middle of the 17th century, many different people across lots of social classes began to wear heels, okay? The wealthier people were still like, well, we don't want to be like the peasants. We need to think of something that's going to set us apart with this shoe, right? So basically they started to make their heels higher and higher, right? The higher the shoe, the higher the income, right? Strutting around in a heel was very impractical. Like,
so it was like only really rich people could manage it because what else are you doing with your time? You're clearly not like tilling the fields.
Absolutely. Like, it's not only like a bold fashion move.
It's a status indicator.
Absolutely. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have to work, so I
Yeah.
can wear a pair of ridiculous
Yes.
shoes, you know? Royals
Love
also really enjoyed wearing high heels, and Queen Elizabeth I was one of the first historically recorded women to wear heels in her desire to appear more masculine.
That's so interesting.
Right? And therefore, if she appeared more masculine, she would be perceived as more powerful.
Yes, and we see that as like a real trend with female leaders in history adopting like fashion or appearances that make them more masculine to again like project that energy
Yes.
to I guess kind of legitimize their rule. And it's so interesting that, you know, she was using it to become more masculine and now here we are. It's like the ultimate symbol of femininity.
Absolutely. And King Louis XIV of France notably only allowed members of his court to wear shoes with red heels, right? So does that sound familiar to you?
Oh my God.
Just like today's Louboutins, these shoes were only worn by people with a lot of cash to spend.
Is that why it's called Louboutin?
I don't know. No, the designer's name is
Okay.
Christian Louboutin.
Oh, okay.
But he is French, so I'm sure he's taken inspiration from
100%. It just sounds
the
like
court, the French court.
it sounds like a bastardization of like, you know, like Louis and then like bottom, right? Like the red bottom shoes from Louis's court. Slay.
Yes, right?
I'm choosing to believe that he was like literally born into existence to recreate these shoes.
That's, you know, he changed his name to Louboutin.
Slay.
So that he
it
could
was like
copy
literally
Louis.
his birthright.
Right? So women also start to adopt wearing high heels and other forms of masculine clothing such as hats,
Right. Okay.
much to dismay of the Venetian ambassador in 1618 who claimed that women were looking, quote, man-like from not just the head to the waist, but to the very foot. Imagine. One example of a popular heel at the time was called the Chopin. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry to any French people out there. But it was a mule type of shoe with a big platform under the balls of the foot.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Not only did this stop feet from getting wet, given the structure of Venice,
Yes.
but it actually physically elevated the women who wore them.
Yes.
Some were as large as 20 inches tall, giving a whole new meaning to the term high status.
Yes. I love
Right.
that. I feel like, yeah, that really leans into, I have no idea if this is true or not. I read it somewhere like a million years ago and then I never bothered to fact check it.
Yeah.
Because, you know when you just read a fact in passing and you're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
it
happened.
sounds legit, whatever.
Yeah.
It was this thing about how like butchers would wear heels.
Oh my God, so they could not
so that-
step in the blood.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And so by the 1700s, trend cycles, they're always going to turn. Anti-French sentiment in England, along with the beginning of the Enlightenment period, caused people to start opposing the wearing of high-heeled shoes.
I love, as a professional hater, I love the idea that you hate the French so much that you like fully just disregard an entire like realm of fashion.
Yeah.
That is so funny to me.
I cannot bear to dress like it.
If
'cause I
there's
hate you
even
so
like an
much.
inch on those shoes, toss them out. I love that.
I
Icon behavior.
love this level of pettiness.
I want to hate like that.
Yeah.
I want to be that level of hater. Like whatever that is, that's my next step.
Absolutely. Well, during the Enlightenment, the ideals of like education and men as rational thinkers. You can't say I'm doing inverted commas
Yes.
with my hands
Rational
right now.
thinkers.
So this obviously influenced a more toned down style of dress. And wearing something so frivolous as the high heel should be left to the emotional women, right? That was the idea at the time. Coming into modernity, the men's heel has found its way back via the 1800s cowboy boot.
Yes, honestly, I love cowboy boots.
They're great.
They're so good.
Absolutely so good. Which it's kind of like it draws back to its Persian roots, right?
Yes.
Using them on horseback.
Yes.
And also the platform heel of the 1970s, a la Kiss and ABBA.
I am so obsessed with that whole like the 70s rock star like glam rock,
Yes.
you know, and they're all in like the super tight flared pants
Yep.
and then the platform boots. I think it's genuinely like such a good look.
I agree. Like 70s
it
fashion
slays.
is so good.
Yes.
For men and women.
I think 70s fashion for men was like really like top tier.
Yep, agreed.
I feel like maybe the outfits were a bit more purposeful. Like there was clearly some styling going on compared to like maybe the Adidas trackies of today.
For men, obviously they have a different standard or have had a different standard in history, but for women, the wearing of high heels really starts to take on a different meaning. So in the 1840s and 1850s, we get this amazing invention of the camera. But with the invention of the camera, we get the invention of photography and the invention of pornographic photos.
What's that internet thing? Is it like Rule 34? If it exists, there's porn of it?
Yes.
Yeah. But if we create something as a society, we are going to find a way to make it about pornography.
And in keeping with that sentiment, there is a lot of pornography from this time period which had women posing in high heels.
Right.
Okay.
That's really interesting.
Very interesting. Director of the Batter Shoe Museum, Dr. Elizabeth Semmelhack, discusses the way that the wearing of heels has been viewed over time and how the morality of the high heel is now entering at this point as part of a conversation. And it leads to that conversation, the high heel that you wear or the shoe that you wear is a reflection of the woman that you are. Over time, heels then start to become a way of categorizing a woman. So, for example, in the 1920s, we've got the flapper girl era.
Yes.
And heels become part of the look of what was called the new woman, so
Yes.
also known as the flapper. So the economic downturn of the 1930s and 1940s forced shoemakers to look into like more alternative, cheaper materials to make shoes. And we then have this lead up to the invention of the wedge heel by Salvatore Ferragamo.
Right.
So he created the first wedge, which looks so cool. They're like a really colourful pair of shoe, which is really
Yeah.
interesting given, you know, the economic crisis at the time, how they're able to make
Yeah.
fashion work for them.
Yeah, especially because, yeah, you think about the time period and all of the struggles. You don't imagine that they're like inventing new shoes and then also using all of those resources to make them like really colourful because in my mind, at least, it seems like a really wasteful venture.
But he took, I think it was cork,
Yes.
which was a cheap material
Yes.
at the time, and used that.
And it's really common to see that in shoes like even now.
Yeah, definitely. So whilst the moral crusade attached to heels continued as they were associated with like the porn industry, pin-up girls, women are also at this time starting to enter the workforce in really large numbers because men were away at war. And so they enjoyed spending their money on fashion trends. They wanted to participate in them.
Yeah.
They suddenly had all this disposable income. They wanted to wear some shoes.
And their husbands aren't there to be annoying about it because they're all off
Dying in war.
dying in war.
Remember when men used to die in war?
The good old days.
I think I've said that so many times on this freaking podcast. Remember when men used to die in war?
Honestly, that should be our byline.
It's the catchphrase.
Yeah. Welcome to History for Hot Girls. Remember when men used to die in war?
At the conclusion of World War II, we now are taken into the 1950s where we have the invention of stilettos, and this is where heels start to take on a life of their own. When Queen Elizabeth II wore stilettos to her coronation, they were seen as like really glamorous, and a lot of the advertising, yeah, seriously, she was fashion icon at the time. A lot of this led to the shoe, so the stiletto being marketed as like everyday footwear.
Oh, I see. Because obviously if Queen Elizabeth can do it,
So can you.
so can you.
Yes.
Disregarding the wealth disparity and the fact that she has servants for like literally everything.
Yes, a callback to those of the royal court.
Yes.
Yeah, royal French
that's
court,
so cool.
right? Dr. Semmelhack discusses in her 2013 New York Times article that, quote, stiletto-wearing women were represented in doing mundane household jobs. And it wasn't until the 1990s and the early 2000s that high heels went from like this symbol of femininity, like, you know, the housewife in her high heels cooking in the kitchen, to like a full-on power move. So we're thinking Sex and the City here.
Yes.
So that Sex and the City played like a really prominent role in transforming the image of high heels in the 90s and early 2000s. So they were no longer just this thing that showed you as a demure, well-behaved woman in that traditional housewife stereotype. They could also signify success, power, and a woman who has impeccable style. We're in a post-pandemic world. We're going to have a look at if high heels are still that girl today. I think high heels are really just losing their unshakable grip on the fashion scene. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the divas are opting to blur the line between comfort and elegance.
What was that trend? It was like the wrong shoe trend or something. So you
I don't
would.
know if I saw that.
So it was this. You know how TikTok calls everything a theory? There's
Yeah.
like the wrong shoe theory. So the idea that the perfect pair of shoes for your outfit is essentially the opposite of what you would naturally gravitate towards. So if you're wearing a sundress, chuck on a pair of Doc Martens.
Oh.
Right? That type of thing.
Oh my God, I call that the Bella Swan at prom theory, you know?
Yes.
When she wore Converse with a prom dress.
Bless her.
That changed, like, I think that influenced a whole generation.
Yes. Wasn't there like a whole trend of women like wearing Converse at their wedding and stuff?
Yes. I couldn't have never. Sorry.
I saw a post of like this woman who, and of course it's your wedding, do literally, whatever, you
do
want.
whatever you
This is
want.
not shaming, do what you want. She had like Crocs.
No. Listen, at my wedding, I changed into a pair of sparkly slides.
Yes,
and
you
I
did. They were
think
so cute.
They were really cute, but I don't think I could get into a sneaker or a Croc at my wedding, but each their own.
I actually fully gave up. So after our entrance, like when we sat down at the reception table, I just took my shoes off. I didn't even put other shoes on. I was like,
so valid.
The dress is long enough, no one's going to see.
No one will know. So over the past 2 years, flat shoes have really taken over the runways at Prada, Miu Miu, Loewe and Balmain. And the numbers really don't lie. Heel sales actually have dropped a staggering 65% since 2020, which is crazy. Like that number is so much bigger than I thought.
Is it, so since 2020?
Since 2020, according to the NPD.
Is it then, I think, also tied in general to the overall economic crisis that we've been facing?
Absolutely. So the list indexes 2023 Q2 list of the hottest products. There's not a single stiletto in sight. It's just sneakers, ballet flats, and thongs, which is flip-flops for any non-Aussies.
Yeah, because
listening.
like I think we were talking about this in the lipstick index episode as like indicators for recession. And you were talking about, you know, the hemline index where clothing gets more conservative as the economy gets tougher because we return to the things that are safe and reusable.
Yeah.
And a stiletto, no matter what Queen Lizzie thinks, is not appropriate everyday footwear.
No, it's not. You can only sort of wear it to a one-off event or something if you are going to wear it.
And you will straight up like destroy your body if you try to wear those every day. Unless you're Zendaya, who is just beyond. She's better than all of us.
She is.
We could never be Zendaya. I could never be Zendaya.
No. So, and like you're saying, I think people are gravitating to buying shoes they can use for multiple types of outfits, right? So the search for chunky sneakers and black ballet flats have soared 70 and 71% as per data, but make it fashion. And according to Ola Pentelau's CNN report called Have We Officially Said Goodbye to High Heels Post-Pandemic, the idea that high heels equal beauty, femininity, and high fashion, it's just no longer the case. Like,
there was one thing that I really not enjoyed because I did not enjoy COVID, obviously, but one thing that I thought was incredible was seeing the way that people used that time sort of stuck at home to really experiment with their self-expression. I think that was really when the whole micro trend thing started to get crazy. Because there were so many different kind of subgenres and subcultures that were being developed because people were getting comfortable with experimenting. I think that there has been a huge shift in fashion and the way that people dress and present themselves in everyday life since then, because we've all gotten a lot more comfortable going, who actually cares? Let's do whatever we want.
Totally.
You know? And I think that a big part of that is also not forcing ourselves to wear shoes that we are kind of told that we should be wearing in certain industries or certain professions. You know?
And the comfortability of now being able to work from home.
That was the other point that I was going to make that I totally forgot about. You just don't need to dress for the office every day anymore.
No.
It's not realistic. And I think people are starting to prioritize comfort over that fashion. Because again, if you are struggling to pay your mortgage and pay for groceries, and then you also have to buy shoes because you need to replace a pair, you're going to go for the thing that's comfortable and versatile.
Yes, totally.
You know, not the thing that, while it looks good, is not practical.
Well, Dr. Semmelhack, which I keep referring back to because their work's amazing, they track the journey of the shoe, speaking about how the heel started off as masculine attire in the military, and then by the 1800s, it's become this symbol of femininity. They are objects that have, quote, spoken to culture, as stated in Dressed, A History of Fashion podcast. They really do reveal a lot about our social and cultural context, like you were saying. And throughout history, they've been one of the most gendered items of fashion. So when heels were invented, they signified power, domination, military domination, I should say. And over time, they've been viewed as items of wealth, then female sexuality, then promiscuity. And today, like you were saying, that they're an item of like self-expression, an item of, you know, something to experiment with.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen, like, you remember those like just plain black like business heels?
Yes.
I feel like I have not seen a pair of those in so long.
Yeah.
The only heels that I see, like when I'm walking through the shops now, are like decorative.
Yes.
They're all really brightly colored. They're covered in rhinestones. Like, they're so much more appealing than the heels that we grew up with because they're no longer like a staple. They're an accessory.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the only times I really see a pair of high heels, and we'll get, if that, is really at like a special event, so like a wedding or an engagement or something like that. And I just think, they've, like you're saying, they're an accessory. They've become like a fantasy, an escape almost. Or a way to manipulate the boundaries of like gender norms, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've also seen more kitten heels. I've really seen, I mean, I've started buying kitten heels.
I love a kitten heel.
Like, I used to associate them with, you know, my old like data, like my grandmother, like old women wore kitten heels, and now I'm like, oh no, they were really onto something.
Yeah, they knew what they were about.
They were cute.
I love a kitten heel. I love a like slingback with a chunky low heel.
A slingback is my fave.
I know. They're so comfortable. They're actually like, you can walk in them.
Yeah.
They're great.
And they're versatile.
Yes.
I can wear them to an event and I can wear them to work.
Yes. And I pretty much only buy shoes that I can wear out and also to work.
Sustainable queen.
Yes.
So my answer to the question of who wears high heels, for me, anyone, as long as they can serve a look.
Yes.
As long
as you can like safely wear them.
Totally. Yes. Oh my gosh. So we're very nosy on this podcast, so we would love to know your thoughts. Are you still wearing high heels, heels in general? Are you more of a sneaker gal?
Yeah. What is your everyday shoe? What do you wear?
And where are you wearing them to?
Yeah. Like what for you defines the everyday shoe? So like I said, for me, it's being able to wear it out and also to work.
Yeah.
As we've mentioned before, we're both teachers. So for me, the shoe being comfortable is like non-negotiable.
So important.
I have to be able to basically like sprint across the school and not pop a blister.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in my role now as year advisor, I'm like,
you're everywhere.
I miss sitting down at work. It's been a long time.
Your 10,000 step count is
oh my God.
nothing.
My step counter since I became year advisor is like off the charts. It's incredible.
I believe it.
The cardio that I'm doing every day.
You don't even need to go to the gym.
I don't. I just need to like
just
keep that heart rate up from stress and be power walking throughout the school.
So true.
What about you? What is your everyday shoe? What does that situation look like?
I think it changes with the season naturally. I love a slide. I love a good slide in summer.
Love slides.
I'm a mule girly or a slingback kind of girl.
Yeah,
like
I'm a slingback.
If I'm gonna wear a heel or a shoe to an event, and I'm excited that actually we're going into winter now, so I'm ready to like bust out my boots.
I love boots.
Yeah, they're my fave. I think wearing a cute boot, a knee high.
Oh, I love knee highs. I love boots. I own a bunch of Doc Martens, but I own the Hello Kitty Doc Martens.
Oh, I love them. They're so cute.
I love like bringing those out in winter. For me, it's got to be a slingback. I try to go for, in general, even like ballet flats and sneakers and whatever, I try to go for clothes that are colourful. So I try to find shoes that are colourful.
You are a maximalist queen.
I am a maximalist when it comes to fashion. So like, the two pairs of heels that I own that I wear are both sparkly, like rhinestone covered.
Naturally.
Just like the microphones, because everything in my life has to be covered in rhinestones.
Valid.
I love that. So chime in. What's your favourite shoe? What does your everyday shoe look like? Where do you wear it to?
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
This podcast was recorded on the traditional lands of the Cabrogal clan of the Darug Nation. We pay respect to the traditional owners of the land and acknowledge their rich oral history and storytelling traditions. We would love to keep spilling the tea on history's hottest people, events, items, and ideas, but for now, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow at History for Hot Girls on socials. Give us a 5-star rating and share with your fellow history girlies. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.